Let justice roll down like waters and righteousness like an ever-flowing stream. In the name of our loving and ever-present God. Amen. Please be seated. Well, what's your Trivial Pursuits question going to be about today, Jimbo? Well, interestingly enough, we have two of the oldest books in Scripture together, juxtaposed together. We have Amos. We have Amos in our Old Testament lesson, which we believe was the first of the prophetic books that was written. So here it is, during the reign of King Jeroboam. You're not writing any of this down. Jeroboam II. We think it was written around the year 750 before the Common Era, BCE, or before Christ, depending on your point of view, and whether or not you're going to be scholarly or whether you're going to be old-fashioned and Christian. This was a time when the northern kingdom was in constant conflict with Syria, which is a little bit, those of you that remember your maps, remember Syria is a little bit to the north of the northern kingdom of Israel. Oh, it was then, and guess what? It still is. And so there was a lot of kerfuffle, fighting, and all those wonderful things going on, and this was immediately preceding the gospel. The story that Amos paints is the story of the prophetic falling of the northern kingdom. So there's a lot going on. And of course we have 1 Thessalonians, which is, we think, the oldest book in the New Testament, written by, we really do believe, this is one of the 13 or so books ascribed to Paul. This is one that actually was written by him, and we think it is the oldest literature that we have, which is written down as a part of the corpus of the New Testament. It's interesting to me because when we read these things, when we read about the Old Testament, it's important that we sometimes look at sort of the progression of the theology of the New Testament as it comes through Paul into Mark, and from Mark into Matthew and Luke, and then into John. That's the progression, that's the flow. That's the flow of the Scripture. And let's also never forget that one should not interpret the New Testament or read the New Testament without acknowledging the intrinsic presence of the Old Testament. The New Testament was not separate from, it was a part of, and it was meant to come out of. It was almost like it originally was a commentary on the Old Testament. Are you ever going to get to the point, Jim, about this New Testament thing? I feel a little bit like Jeff Gaffigan. You know, he's always got that voice going on. The comedian who's always going, well, you know, he really doesn't talk right. Anyway. If you don't know what I'm talking about, I'm wasting my breath. So we have this lovely event. Again, the kingdom of heaven is like. The kingdom of heaven is like. Let's first of all go back and discuss what the kingdom of heaven terminology means. What are we talking about when we say the kingdom of heaven? What are we talking about? Yes, sir.
Only what you're talking about.
Okay. Okay. Kingdom of heaven is presence of God on earth. Oh no, wait. No, it's something we're anticipating. It's something that we're looking forward to. Or not. The kingdom of heaven, the realm of heaven. Wow, it becomes a little complex. What we have here is a story, a recognition that there is a coming, right? Now on Wednesday, I had a little fun. I had a little bit of fun because I asked the question, well, what are we waiting for? What is this about? And the answer given was the second coming. I said, but wait a minute, wait, Matthew, there's been no crucifixion yet, so how can we have a second coming yet? And so that kind of threw the conversation into a little bit of quandary. And the reason I asked the question is because it confused me. Not because it confused the individual that asked the question. It confused me. But the simple fact of the matter is that Matthew's Gospel was written when? It was written after the fall of the temple in Jerusalem. It was written after the year 70. Jesus had come to the earth, had lived, had been named as the Messiah, had died, had been crucified, had risen from the dead, and gone into the embrace of God in heaven. And yes, we are waiting for the second coming. But Matthew is not describing the second coming. Matthew is describing the coming of the Messiah. At the end of time, the theological term is parousia. Parousia. You could drop that in your conversation this week. Well, we were talking about parousia this week in church. And you will see the eyes glass right over. So tell me about these young ladies. Tell me about these young ladies, these 10 virgins. They're bridesmaids. Well, yes, they're bridesmaids, but the terminology, the parthenoi is the word for virgins, and we can use that word. We know what it means. It means they were young women. Okay, so tell me about the young women. What do we know about the young women in this story? It's really easy. 5 are and foolish. Yes, that's all we need to know. 5 are wise, 5 are foolish. We're doing well here. I know it's cloudy. I know. I got up this morning and went, well, Stephanie, we're going to start the service with announcements. We're going to go straight to have you read the scripture? Are there any questions? Come up here and let's get some bread. Now let's go home. She said that would be really, I don't think there would be any objections to that, Jim, but that's probably not what we need to do. Actually, I'm blaming me. She didn't say that. She said, that'd be okay with me. This is what a person in trouble looks like. She didn't say that. Wise young ladies and foolish young ladies. What do we know about the wedding feast here? Anything about that? Well, there was a bride going to be there, but we don't know anything about the bride. We don't know anything about the wedding feast at all, except that that's where the bridegroom is coming. And he's delayed. We don't know why. And one of the reasons we don't know why is because when this was written, the gospel writer Matthew did not know why there was a delay. There was an expectation. There was an expectation. In Scripture you have mentioned many times that before you will die, before these people in this room die, the end of the time will come. The day of the Lord will come. There will be a great reckoning. The end of time as we know it will come. They were waiting for it then, and we are waiting for it now. Although some people are telling us that we are in the end times. It's good to know that because I can pack. Or I can build, this makes me laugh, I can build a bomb shelter. And I can put 2 years' supply of food in it. Just in case. The end time, the judgment time. What does it mean to be wise and what does it mean to be foolish? So the wise young ladies have with them what? What do they have? They have extra oil. Because the foolish virgins also have oil in their lamps, and presumably they're all lit. It's evening. And then they all get drowsy, and as they're all drowsy, their lamps go out. And then the sound of the bridegroom comes, and they're all awakened. And then the wise virgins get up and they go, whoop, whoop, our lamps are burned out. They pour their oil in, they relight their lamps, and off they go. The foolish virgins go, whoops, our lamps are out. Oops, we don't have any extra oil. Oops, can we borrow yours? And the wise virgin said, no, you need to go over to Meyer. Isn't it interesting that they're told at midnight to go somewhere in Galilee or Samaria? Where are they? And go to the oil merchants. You know the oil merchants are going to love to have that knock on the door. There is no oil for them. They find it though eventually, and when they come, the door is shut against them. And they knock on the door, and they are not permitted. Yeah. In those days and in these days, how is it that we behave like the wise virgins? What is this is a kind of an analogy here. So what is it that the wise or the wisdom entails in the 21st century? What are we supposed to know in the 21st century? Keep awake, therefore, for you know neither the day nor the hour. What does that mean, to keep awake? What does it mean?
Be ready.
Be ready, but how does it, what kind of readiness are we talking about? That's the question. What kind of readiness are we talking about?
Clean living.
Clean living. Heart. Living your life as if you love God and you love your neighbor. Yes. 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 Bringing food for the Thanksgiving basket. Looking after the hungry. Looking after each other. Saying, I love you on a daily basis. Keeping current. Keeping current. Keeping current. Because you never know, do you? You never know. Keeping current. Whatever it is you believe, whatever kind of relationship you are in with your God, whatever kind of relationship you are in with your family, you need to keep current. For Brittany, what's her name? Maynard? 29-year-old woman that took her own life. It's a different kind of keeping current. That whole thing has been a quandary for me. Quandary for me. I think it's probably been a quandary for you. I want you to remember the 5 things that we've talked about before. I want you to remember those 5 things. I want you to never be behind on saying thank you. I never want you to be behind on saying, please forgive me. I want you to never spend a day where the day ends where you don't say, I forgive you. I want you to spend all of your time and be ready at the end of the day to say, always, I love you. Never go to sleep at night without having said, I love you to the people that you love. Because you must be ready for the last thing. You must be ready for goodbye. Wachet auf, ruft uns die Stimme. Wachet auf, ruft uns die Stimme. Hear the sound of the horn. Sleepers awake. Be wise. Amen.